Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to introduce the core mechanic of our game for Signal Storm, and that's going to come in the form of clickable relay nodes. A node is going to be a little colorful square that our user is going to have to interact with. They'll either click it to strengthen our network, or if they accidentally click a bad node, it could destroy our network. So this is going to give the key element of gameplay here for our game. So let's head to the computer screen and let's dive right in. So I have Lesson 3's starter file here open in vscode.dev, our core mechanic on clickable relay nodes. I'm going to minimize this browser though and go to that file directly. So I'm going to come right over here to the Signal Storm folder that's on my desktop, open Lesson 3, and I'll open up our starter file. So it looks like what we start with here in this lesson is maybe where we left off on Lesson 2. We've got our overlay for start mode. I can click enter. I can move my player around. It follows my mouse. So my player is just that little crosshair. No nodes are spawning though. There's nothing I can click. So I'll just force the game over with the G key. All right, so now let's go back to our code and let's move through some of our missions. So mission number 1 here says we need to set the relay system constants. So, anytime we add a new system to our game, I often like to start by looking at what constants we have for the system. These are going to be like the knobs or the dials that we can turn and twist to finely tune that system, adjust how it feels or plays or looks within our game. And so that is something that's certainly going to go in our student edit zone. So if I roll down here, I have mission 1, our relay system constants. So we're going to adjust the relay system constants and set the chance to get a given relay. All right, so we are going to have 4 relays. We're going to have an orange relay, a yellow relay, a green, and then one that's not listed here, we're going to have a blue. And the reason why we don't have to list the blue one is because we're going to set the chance we get an orange, the chance we get a yellow, the chance we get a green, and whatever's left over will represent the chance of a blue. And so our chances here are going to be probabilities between 0 and 1. And so 1 is the maximum probability. It means we are guaranteed that we are going to get it. So for example, if I set the orange relay chance to 1, that means there is a 100% chance I'm going to get an orange, and I would never get a yellow, I'd never get a green, and I'd never get the blue that's not listed here. So we don't want that to happen. So let's set our orange relay. Orange is going to be really bad. If we accidentally click an orange relay, it's going to cause a ton of damage to our network. So we're not going to have this one spawn that often. I'm going to make this probability 0.12. A yellow relay is going to be sort of like a risk-reward relay. If we click it, it might help us in one area but hurt us in another. And so we're going to make its probability 0.16. A green relay is going to be pretty good for us, so we'll make it spawn 0.22. All right, and so if we look here, what is 0.12 plus 0.16 plus 0.22? Well, let's just get out our calculator. Let's check it out. Well, if I add up those values, 0.12 plus 0.16 plus 0.22, that means I have a 50% chance to spawn one of those 3. So what does that mean for my blue relay? Well, 1 minus 0.5, we don't need to use the calc for it, but we'll show it, is 0.5. So that means I have a 50% chance to spawn the blue relay. So I could even just put that in a comment here. I'll say blue relay chance 50%. Blue relay chance is 50%. All right, so now that we have those chances set up, what we need to do is figure out something called the thresholds for how we will create those relays. So to create a relay, we are going to make a random number. So to create a relay, we will make a random number from 0 to 1. And depending on what that number's value is, we will create the right relay, orange, yellow, green, or blue. So our orange threshold is just going to be the orange relay chance. Okay, so basically anything from 0.0 to 0.12, we're going to give an orange relay. All right, so what's our yellow threshold going to be? Well, we want a 16% chance to get our yellow threshold. Well, anything from 0 to 0.12 is going to give us orange. So we got to set like the maximum. So this is our threshold number, this ending number right here. Well, to get that ending number, we're going to take the orange relay chance. So orange relay chance, and we're going to add the yellow relay chance. We're going to add those up together. So let's see, what's that going to give me? So that's going to be 0.12 plus 0.16. So that's going to give me 0.28. So if I generate a number and it's not less than 0.12, because if it's less than 0.12, it's going to give me an orange relay. So this is going to be something from 0.12 to 0.18, or 0.28. If I generate that number, we're going to get yellow. All right, and then how do I figure out my green relay? Well, the green relay, we will add all of them together. So we're going to do orange relay chance plus yellow relay chance. Tab for autocomplete, it's our friend, plus green relay chance. And we know that what is this going to be? We added those up already. That is 0.5. So if we generate anything from 0.28 to 0.50, that is going to give us green. So what does it mean if we generate something over 0.5? Well, if we generate anything from 0.5 to 1, then that is going to be a blue relay. And again, that's why we don't need to show that, because it's going to be the default. If none of those things are true, then it's going to have to make a blue relay for us. All right, so those are going to be our constants here for the relay system that we have. I think this is really great. We can tweak these if we don't like the spawn rate of our relays later on. But for right now, let's continue scrolling down. Let's see what else we have. In our color palette, okay, it looks like we've got some new colors in our color palette. We've got a color for our blue, green, yellow, and orange relays. And then we have a relay color fill. And that looks like it's going to be probably white, a lot of red, a lot of green, a lot of blue. And we've got labels for our relay. So our blue relay is going to be for our signal's bandwidth, and our green relay is going to be for our signal integrity. Think of integrity like our health, and think of bandwidth as our ability to score points. So this is going to be scoring points, and this is going to be the health. Yellow is going to boost our signal, but remember, we said yellow is going to be like a risk reward. So it might boost our bandwidth, but take some integrity. And then signal corruption is going to be our orange. That's just going to destroy everything. It's going to reduce both of those values. All right, and then we got a new object here called relay types, and it's similar to our game object, right? We just have the types of relays we have. So we have blue, green, yellow, and orange, and we have those as properties of our relay type object. And then it's always good to look at what our gameplay variables are, because we have a new gameplay variable that is extremely important here. It is called relays. And if you notice, relays is equal to a set of square brackets. Those square brackets are called an array. And think of an array like a container. And it's a container that you can put things in. So I'm going to generate lots of relays throughout my game. They need to go somewhere, and they are going to go into this container. So for example, maybe I make relay 1, and then I put it in the container. And then I make relay 2, and I put it in the container. And then I make relay 3, and I put it in the container. And relay 4, and I put it in the container. And then maybe we click relay number 2. We clicked on it, so we destroyed it. So we should take it out of the container, and we'll remove it from the container. And then we add relay 5 into the container, okay? So you get the idea here. And the nice thing about arrays is that if I want to run code on this array, or this relay, then this relay, then this relay, and then this relay, I'd have to do that like 4 times, right? If let's say it was 5 lines of code, 5 times 4, that's 20 lines. But instead, if everything is in an array, I can write the code to target the array and move through the array and do those same lines of code over and over and over and over again. So it's a really nice method. Now, before we go any further, we'll just say arrays have positions at which they put their elements. So positioning or indexing starts at 0. So this is the 0 position, the 1 position, the 2 position, and the 3 position. And we can actually reach into an array and grab something at a position. So if I type the name of the relay, or the name of the array, relays, and then I use square brackets, that opens the array up. And I just specify what position I want to grab at. So if I put position 2, I would reach in and grab that element at position 2 right here. So that's kind of nice. That's really kind of nice. And we can actually move through an array starting at the beginning and going forward or we can move through an array starting at the end and working backwards. And each time, each use case is a little bit different. So we'll talk about those as we move through our video here. So now that we have understand our relay system, we looked at our system constants, our color palettes, and our gameplay variables. Let's head to mission number 2. Let's take a look. Well, actually, before we go there, really, our game, we want to have relays just randomly appear, like pop, pop, pop. They want to appear throughout the game. We don't have that functionality yet. So if I scroll down just a little bit here, let's look. So in our draw function, which updates every play or runs every single frame of our game, we're calling a check player relay click function. So that's something we'll look at. But in our key pressed function, I have another debug key. It's an S key that is going to spawn a relay. So if I press the S key, I should automatically generate a relay in our game world. So let's test this out. So I'll refresh, I'll press S. I'm pressing S, but we're not spawning anything right now. Okay, so that means the system's a little broken. And that's okay, because we know we have this functionality here. And if we look, when I press S, I'm calling some function called spawn relay. So let's go take a look at what spawn relay is going to be. So we'll type in mission number 2. And mission number 2 puts us right inside of that function called spawn relay. Now, we're going to introduce a pattern here. Anytime I want to create an object into our world, right? So in this case, it is a relay, something that is going to exist in the world that we will interact with. I typically will use 3 sort of functions. So I have a function that's called generate relay data. That is going to create the data for that object that I'm about to put into the world. Then I have spawn relay. So this is going to actually create a version of that data that I can put in the world. So I have the data object, and then I spawn that object. And then if we look, we have check player relay click. So this is like our update for the object. So we're going to generate the data, we're going to spawn the data, and then here it will consider this updating our data. Did we click on it? And if we did, we got to update it. We got to change something about it. So right here, it says, what are we doing in spawn relay? Well, we're creating a constant variable called relay data, and it's coming from the generate relay data function. All right, so if we go here to generate relay data, there's a lot of stuff we got to do in here. Well, we got like mission 3 and mission 4, but the key idea is right here, this statement. We're returning an object. If you look, so when this function runs properly, we return this object. That means send this back to where the function was called from. So wherever we called generate relay data from, we are returning this object, which is going to represent a relay. So we get that object and we store it in a variable called relay data. Now, that's only going to happen if this function worked correctly. If this function didn't work correctly, it returns null, which means empty data. That's not good. So now inside of spawn relay, we have our relay data. We just got it back from our generate relay data function. And we ask a question. If that variable relay data is not, that's what the exclamation point means, not equal to null. So it's not an empty data. It's got information in it. What do we want to do? It says we want to add the relay to the relay list. Store relay data so it can be updated and drawn. Okay, so remember we just looked at that variable called relays. That is our array or our container that is going to hold every single relay that we create. We want to push something into it. So how do we push something into an array? Well, you type the array's name, dot, and then push. So we're going to call the push method. And all we need to do is tell it, what do we want to push into that array? So when you push something, it's going to go right to the end of the array, and I want to push in the variable relay data. All right. That should work really nice. So now we're actually going to generate the relay. We're going to push it into our array. Let's see what happens. So let's try to spawn a relay. Let's hit the S key. Ooh, I spawned a relay. I think that's a relay. It just looks like a white dot, but I'm going to say that that is a relay. Let's spawn another one. What's going on? I'm spawning. Well, you know what? I think, because I looked ahead, we are spawning relays over and over and over again. It's just that we are spawning them one on top of the other, and we can't see the difference because they just keep spawning in this exact location. So what we need to do is we need to somehow randomize where we spawn the relay. That's going to be like part of the relay's properties probably, right? It's like X position and its Y position will dictate where it spawns. So let's go to mission number 3 and see if we can work on generating our relay grid position values. So I'm going to just scroll down a little bit here because I think we're going to need some variables here to help us. If we look in our gameplay constants under the student edit zone, we have a canvas width, a canvas height, and then I have the number of columns that I want and the number of rows that I want. So I have 15 columns, 9 rows, so 15 columns, 9 rows, and each cell here has a width and it has a height. And so I'm probably going to have to use those to position my relay appropriately. So let's go to mission number 3. We find ourselves in generate relay data. So the first thing that we do here is we use something called a for loop to repeat code over and over and over and over again. So let's look at how many times we're going to repeat this code. It says for let attempt equals 0, attempt less than 50, attempt plus plus. All right, so first we start with a value of 0 for this variable attempt. And then we're going to run the code that is inside these curly brackets. And then we come back up and we're going to run it again. And we'll run it again and again and again. And each time we run it, we're going to increase the value of the attempt variable by 1. So the first time attempt is 0. The next time attempt is 1. Then it's 2. Then it's 3. Then it's 4. Then it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All the way up till it hits 49. Because 49, if we look, is actually less than 50. But then when we increase it to 50, the value of attempt becomes 50. And if you look, 50 is not less than 50. So this line right here, this part is like the end case. It tells us when to stop the loop. If this becomes false, the loop will stop. So we're going to try to do this 50 times. Let's look at what's happening in here. Mission number 3 says generate a random row and column for a relay. Place relays on valid grid cells. So right now, we're setting a variable row to 2 and a column to 5. And it looks like that's hard-coded, meaning it's never going to change ever. So row 2, 0, 1, 2. Remember, we start counting at 0. So 0, 1, 2. Column 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, look at that. That's why that's there. If I change this, let's do like row 6, column 1. Is my relay going to shift? Let's see. Spawn it. Row 6, column. Did that change? Row 6, column 1. Oh, maybe I just didn't click off the page. Sometimes if you don't click off your line, there you go. Row 6, column 1. Perfect. If you don't click off your line in VS Code, sometimes it won't update in the browser properly. But so we can change the row and column, but we don't want it to be the same every single time. We want it to be random. So we're going to use the random function. And I'm going to pick a random number from starting at 0, so we can just leave the first number blank. And we're going to go up to the number of rows that we have. So grid rows. And what is that? 9. And then here we'll do random, and we'll say grid columns, which is 15. There's only one problem. Like the random function here, like it's going to create a random number between 0 and 15, but it's going to make it could be a decimal. So we could get like 13.789. Well, that's really bad because I don't have a column number 13.789. I have a column number 13. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of this decimal. I need to just chop it off. And the way you can chop off a decimal is by calling the floor function. So we're going to call the floor function and put the random line that we just wrote inside of the floor function. So if we got like 8.27, it's going to make that 8. If we got 5.99, it will chop off the decimal and give us 5. It will essentially floor the number or send the number to the lowest integer it can have. So this is going to work nicely. So now let's go check. Let's go spawn some relays, and hopefully they'll spawn all over the place. All right, so there's one. There's another. Hey, I can now make dots appear. That makes me really, really happy. But, you know, they all sort of look the same. And I thought we were going to have like orange and green and blue and yellow relays. So we got a bit of work to do. Plus, I can't click them yet. So that's a bummer. We got to click these things. So let's head back here and let's look at what mission 4 has us do. Mission 4 keeps us in the generate relay data type. And it says, okay, Let's actually go up a little bit and try to understand what's happening. So we picked a row and column, and then we created a variable called cell is occupied, and we set it equal to false. So we're going to assume that the cell that we're trying to put a relay in, like maybe I want to put a relay right here, we're going to assume that it is not occupied. And then we're going to loop through all of the relays that are in our array relays. So we're going to loop through every item that is in our container. So every relay that's on the board, and we're going to check that relay's row to see if it is equal to the row that we generated. We're going to check that relay's column, see if it's equal to the column we generated. And if it is, then that cell is occupied, okay? And then we'll just say, we'll break. Break means stop this for loop, because we now know there's already something at this position. So cell is occupied, turn to true. Then we ask a question. If not, cell is occupied. So we want to make sure, hey, is the cell we're targeting not occupied? What's its value? So if this were true, then we are not going to run. If cell is occupied is true, then we are not going to run this question. But if it's not, it means it's open. What we're going to do is figure out what relay type to place. So we create a random variable called roll. Ooh, a random variable. Just calling random is going to give us a number between 0 and 1. And if you remember, that's exactly what we want, because our percentages, our thresholds are between 0 and 1 for the relay system. And we are going to start by assuming the relay type variable as blue. So we grab that relay type object that we looked at way in the beginning, which has properties blue, green, yellow, and orange, and we set it to blue. Now we got to look at the value of roll, because we have 3 questions here. If one question is correct right here, if this question evaluates to yes or true, we're going to change relay type and make it orange. Well, what question do we need to ask here? We got to check to see if the value of that roll variable is less than orange threshold. So go down and tab for autocomplete. Remember, that orange threshold is 0.12. All right, if that question doesn't answer yes, we're going to ask another question. We're going to check to see, okay, what question do we want to see if we set our relay type to yellow? We'll do roll is less than yellow threshold. And remember, yellow threshold is just a number. We added, what did we add the orange and the yellow together? I think that's like 0.28. And then if that question is no, we're going to see, well, all right, is the value of our roll variable less than the green threshold that we defined? And I'm pretty sure that was 0.5. So this is going to now set our appropriate relay types. We assume it's blue, and if it's not, then we set it orange, yellow, or green. And then we create our relay object. And our relay object has 5 properties. It has a row property and a column property. So where it sits, what row and column it sits in the game board. And then it actually has an X and Y property. And those X and Y properties are going to be like the pixel values of it. So like the X property of this might be like, oh, I don't know, 400 pixels and then 80 pixels down, something like that. And then it has a type property. So we now know what type of relay it is. There should be no visual change here after solving this mission. Everything's going to look the same, but now our back end is set up properly so that we can create that visual change, because now that relay right here knows if it is a blue, green, yellow, or orange relay. So let's head to mission number 5. Okay, mission number 5 is all about drawing our relays. And it finds us in the draw relays function. So this is down here with all of our other draw functions. Inside a draw scene, we are now drawing our background, our relays, our player, our HUD, and our overlays if certain conditions are true. So we are looking to, let's see, set the relay color based on type. Display different colors for each relay. Oh, well, that's mission 6. Well, we got to work on mission 6 later. We got to do mission 5 first. It says draw our relay. Draw relay shapes on the grid. Use grid positions to place each relay. Okay, so first thing in here in this function we're calling no stroke, which means give me an invisible marker so you are not going to see the outline of the shape that I'm about to make. And then we loop through our array of relays. So remember, our array is a container that has objects. So we might have relay 1, relay 2, relay 3, and relay 4. When we say for const relay of relays, we're targeting our array, our container, and this variable right here, relay, the first time through the loop, it's this relay. The next time we target this one. The next time we target this one. And then the last time we target this one. It's a nice way to move forward through our array. And then we set a color. We say, okay, let's let the relay color be the blue. So we're going to assume we start with blue. All right. So we got blue, that color's set. And then mission 6, we got to change that color. But then we put some paint in our paint bucket. And the paint that we put in our paint bucket is the relay color that we defined here. So right now, blue is loaded into our paint bucket. And we got to draw our shapes now. Well, right now we are changing the paint. We're changing it to our core color, and then we're drawing a circle. So that's why we probably see this white circle. But I want like a colored rectangle or a colored square sitting around that circle. So let's draw a rectangle while we still have that blue in our paint bucket. So here's that blue, our relay color. All right, so a rect takes 4 pieces of information. It's going to take an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate of the top left corner. So let's target our relay's x position and our relay's y position. So we'll say relay.x, relay.y. And then it's going to take a width and a height. I don't know, let's do cell width. The width of our cell and the height of our cell. So we saw those variables earlier. All right, let's just see what this looks like. So we're going to draw a rectangle. What's it going to give us? Ooh, okay. That's okay looking. I'm not crazy about it, but it's okay looking. It's colorful. First thing I don't like is the edges. So let's round the edges a little bit. So our rect can actually take a 5th piece of information, a number for how much we want to round the edges. And we're going to do some good rounding here. We're going to put a 10 in here. And so if we refresh our page now, okay, those rounded edges look much better. But I don't think I want the relay to fill this entire square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of move to the right in a little bit and move down a little bit. So let's move to the right. So relay.x, to move it to the right, we add some number. I'm going to add 8 pixels. And relay.y, to move it down, I'm going to add 8 pixels. So we're going to shift it to the right and shift it down. Let's see how this looks. Okay. Oh, oh well, that looks worse. I mean, I like the spacing here, but I want that spacing on the other side as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift the width of the rectangle. We don't want it to be cell width long. See, we moved 8 pixels to the right. So that means I got to move 8 pixels back. That's going to put us right here on the edge. But then I want to move 8 pixels in again so we have symmetry. So it looks the same on each side. So we're going to have to do 8 pixels and then another 8 pixels, which makes 16 pixels. So let's move it back 16 pixels. And we'll move this one up 16 pixels. And that should give us a nice offset rectangle in our relays. Oh, that looks much better. I think those look like really good, and I'm just spamming them. But there's only one problem. Right now, all we are seeing is blue, and I know with great certainty that these are not all blue relays. Some of them should be yellow or green or orange, which is going to put us in mission 6. So mission 6 says we have to set the relay color based on types. So we're asking a bunch of questions, and depending on what that question is, we set the relay color to green, yellow, or orange. Well, remember, each relay object that we're working with here has a type property. So we before accessed their X property and their Y property, but now we're going to access their type property. And we're going to check to see if the relay type is equal to 3 equal signs for strict equality, our relay types object, and we're going to access its green property. So if it is equal to the relay type's green property, then we'll set the fill color to be our green color. And we'll do something similar down here. We'll say relay.type. What is the type of our relay? If it is equal to relay type dot, oh, it's relay type, not types. Relay type. Make sure you put relay type. Relay type dot yellow. There's our yellow property. And then in the last one, to change it to orange, we're going to check for our relay. If it's type, relay.type is equal to 3 equal signs for equality. Relay type, there's our relay type object, dot. And look at our properties. We got blue, we got green, we got orange. We want orange. All right. Now that and that's going to swap out the paint in our paint bucket. So this relay color variable will now change. Let's test it. Let's see. Will we get different colored relays? Well, there's blue, blue, green. Hey, we got a green. All right. So if we keep spamming, Ooh, we got lots of colorful relays up. And it makes sense that we have the most blue because blue is set to be 50% chance. And then green is what, like 22%. Yellow is maybe 18 and red was only like 12%. Orange was only like 12%. So the numbers here look like they're matching for me. This looks really good. So we're almost done. We only got 2 more missions left. So now what we got to do is implement our system that allows us to click on a relay to maybe destroy it. So let's head back here to mission number 7. So mission number 7 says detect when the player clicks on a relay. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. So right here, this finds us in that new function that we saw is getting called in our draw function. So every frame of our game, we are checking to see if our player has clicked a relay. And so the first thing that we do here, we ask a question and we say, if the mouse button is not being pressed. So if we're not pressing the mouse button, we're just going to get out of this function. There's no need. The user did not click at all. But we're going to continue if we did press a button. So if we did press a button, it looks like we are looping through our array of relays. Now this time we're looping a little funky. We're saying let I equal relays.length minus 1, I greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. So let's just fill out some our array here. We'll say relay 1, relay 2, relay 3, relay 4. And if you remember, each of these relays is at a position. Position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3. Arrays have a length. It is the number of objects that are in them. So right now, our array's length is 4. Well, we're starting our variable I as 4 minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. So I starts at 3, and we run our for loop. Then we subtract 1 from I, and I becomes 2. Then we subtract 1, I becomes 1. We subtract 1, I becomes 0. We subtract 1, and I would become negative 1. And if you look at our stop condition, we're going to stop our for loop when I is no longer greater than 0. So once that becomes false, we stop. And that stops at negative 1. So we go 3, 2, 1, 0 here. 3, 2, 1, 0. Essentially, we start at the end of our array and we loop backwards. Now, this is the way we're going to do it when we want to remove something from the array. Anytime you want to remove something from your array, you should start at the end of the array and loop backwards. It's just going to make things so much easier for us. And if we look, we are reaching into the array and grabbing something at a specific index. When we first do this, we're going to grab what is at index 3, then at index 2, then at index 1, then at index 0, because we're using that variable I. And we store whatever we grabbed in a variable called relay. So now we can work with this variable relay. And we do. We get the center X value of the relay. We get the center Y value of the relay. And then we do some other stuff. We calculate something called DX, something called DY, something called hit zone. I don't know. What are all these values? And then we ask our question here. Mission number 7, detect when the player clicks a relay. Check if the player overlaps a relay area. So for example, if I click right here, I'm not overlapping a relay. But if I click here, I'm still not overlapping. But now I am overlapping. So how do we determine when that is the case, when we are overlapping? So in order to help us with this, I think I should probably go to the whiteboard because I think we need to explain just a little bit of math. And that little bit of math is going to help us implement these next few lines of code. So imagine here is my relay. So here's my relay. Let's see. I'll put my relay up here. So here's my relay. Zoop, zoop. Right, there's my relay. And then here's my mouse. Okay, here's my mouse. So this is my mouse, this is my relay. Okay, and we have centers. We have a center here and a center here. And you can see we are a certain length away from each other. We are not overlapping. So if I were to click, this is not a collision. I didn't click on the relay yet. So I'll call this line our length, our len. All right, and so now what I need to do is I need to determine the size of this, because if this gets small enough, right? If this gets small enough, I move here, nope. I move here, nope. I move here. Yeah, now it's small enough. Then we have a click. So how am I going to figure that out? Well, we can take that arrow that points how far away we are and think of it as having an X part or a horizontal part. And that horizontal part is just how far away the relay center is from the mouse in the x direction. I'll call that dx. And we can get dx by taking the players, I should call that player, not mouse, player. We can take the player's x position and subtract the relay's x position. So that should work for that dx value. And then we got to figure out how far away we are in the y position. We'll call that dy. So that dy would be the player's y position minus the relay's y position. All right, so I can get dx and dy. And once I know dx and dy, there's a really nice formula in trigonometry called the Pythagorean theorem, which says, hey, if we call this side A and this side B and this side C, C being the hypotenuse or longest side of our triangle, then the Pythagorean theorem says if you take A and square it and add B squared, you get C squared. So if we substitute in our values, we give dx as A, we'll square it, plus dy as b, we'll square it. That's going to equal our length squared. Of course, I don't really want the square of this length, so I can take the square root of both sides, zoop, zoop, and when I do that, I see the length, or how far away we are from the player, can be found by taking the square root of dx squared plus dy squared. Now, if this gets small enough, right, if the length gets small enough, we have a collision. So right here, that length is small enough, we have collided. We clicked on a relay. So that is going to be a special, we'll call it like threshold distance. If we look, I'm going to use my relay as just a circle. So here's my relay. Okay. It has a radius. And then here is my mouse cursor, my player. It has a radius. If I add those two values up, the player's radius plus the relay's radius, that is what we're going to be checking. We'll call this our hit zone. Because if we get smaller than that, then we have crossed into the relay and we've had a click. So what we're going to check to see is if our length distance that we calculated right here is less than or equal to our hit zone, then we've clicked a relay. So let's just expand this out. The length is just the square root of dx squared plus dy squared, less than or equal to hit zone. But we don't really like taking square roots in computer science if we don't have to. So let's get rid of the square root by squaring this side and squaring this side. What you do to one side of the equation, you can do to the other. So when I square a square root, I get dx squared plus dy squared less than or equal to hit zone squared. If this is true, if that condition is true, it means we just clicked on a specific relay. So that is the math that we are now going to implement. And if that was a lot, it's okay. We don't have to fully understand it. We just have to use this condition right here. So let's take a look. If we look here, we get our dx. All right, so and that's our player's x value minus our relay's x value. So that's right here, dx. And then we get our dy, player's y minus our relay's y. And then we get our hit zone. There's our hit zone, our player's radius plus our our relay's radius right there. And that's like the width of the relay. And now we got to figure out our click detection. Well, hey, our click detection, we're going to take those variables, dx squared plus dy squared, and check to see if it's less than hit zone squared. So if, all right, let's see, if dx squared plus dy squared, there's our Pythagorean theorem, is less than hit zone squared, that is our hit condition. So if this question answers yes, we have clicked on a relay. So what do we want to do? Well, it says we need to remove the relay from the grid. So delete the relay from the list. So we have this array, right? This container that holds all of our relays. It's called relays. And you saw we could push things into it using the push method. Well, to remove something from that container, to remove it from the array, we use a splice method. And our splice method needs to know at what position in the array we want to remove the object from. So if I just scroll back up, we have our position here as the variable I. Remember, we started at the end of our array and we looped backwards through the positions. In my example, I think it was position 3, then 2, then 1, then 0. So we are going to remove from position I. And then we just have to tell it how many objects starting at that position we want to remove. I want to remove just one. I only want to remove the one relay that I just clicked on. And then because I've clicked on a relay, there's no need to go through my the rest of my loop, right? If I clicked on like the second relay in the array, then there's no need to check the rest of the relays. I'm not gonna be clicking on those at the same time. So we're gonna use a return statement to just get out of this function. We'll entirely leave the function. All right. With that, I think our relay system is in place. Let's run this and let's check it. So I can spawn relays of different colors. Perfect. And now if I head over here and if I click off of one, nothing is happening. I click on one, it is removed. Oh, that's perfect. I can clean them all up. So I can spawn the relays. I can click the relays to get rid of them. This is wonderful. I'm really happy with how this relay system looks and is playing with our clickable relay nodes. And so I think this is a great place to stop. In our next video, maybe we'll begin implementing some of the benefits or the harm that happens when you click on one of these relays. So I'll see you in that next video.